Well, I can do that to myself, all by myself. It's not hacking, it's just goofing stuff up.
User error. Yeah.
I hate it when you go to reset your password and it tells you that you can't use the previous password.
Yeah, you use this
You don't just change one number.
I was trying to log in with that same password and you told me it was
All
wrong.
right, good afternoon and welcome to the City Council Oversight Committee meeting, Thursday, September 12th, 2024. One item on the agenda is the presentation of emergency shelter statistics for the month of August, 2024. April.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, council members. So the month of August out of Friend's House was busy like usual. We stayed very full every single night. We sheltered about 103 unique people. You see in your report some information about their demographics, age, and gender breakdowns and stuff. One thing I will point out is we really had a slow month on getting people out of shelter, and I reported previously that the housing authority is no longer issuing housing vouchers. The funding that we have for rehousing assistance is all depleted and gone. So we're really hitting brick walls with people. You're probably seeing that at other shelters as well. So we're trying to be creative with that. So looking to our partners to help with housing through their programs and identify other types of resources that could be available. And we still were able to get one person housed out of the shelter using our funds. That doesn't mean that's the only person that left shelter. That's just the person that we paid for to get housing. So that's one thing you'll see that's fairly low. We had a low number of incidences again, pretty minimal, which has been our trend. Since we've started tracking turnaways, we've stayed full every single night, and we have turned away sometimes as high as 17 people in one night, all just due to capacity issues. So we're still seeing a great request for assistance that we can't meet with our current capacity. Again, that doesn't count the people that don't show up and ask to come to shelter because they know they can't come because they have an animal with them. We usually don't see those folks. So we have several reports. Happy to answer any questions about them or any of this one. Yes, sir.
I was going to ask you about tracking turnaways for dogs, but as I was thinking about it, I would assume the only people that would show up with an animal are like brand new.
Right.
Because everybody else knows
not to even show up. Yeah.
Do you have any idea, a rough number, like what percentage of the population have dogs and cats? And
So I can tell you an anecdote that will kind of give you a general idea.
Okay.
So in January of 24, we had a cold spell come through that got temperatures down in about 8 degrees. It was pretty dangerous. So we went out and combed the city and got as many people inside a friend's house. We opened our dining room up and offered that for temporary shelter. And then anybody couldn't go to those two places, we put in motels, and those were people with animals. And we rented 83 rooms.
okay.
And some of those were a little doubled up. But there were at least 83 people. We rented 83 rooms.
It's also my understanding that there were some animals that didn't make it into any kind of shelter and they didn't make it through the 8-degree weather.
No.
Oh, Councilmember Hunt.
So I see the 103 unique guests with a capacity of 55 per night.
52, yes.
52 are less people reserving a bed? Is that how there's a turnover like that? Or
So, yeah, so
just because I would think it would be the same 52 people every night if
Yeah.
they're all reserving.
yeah, I think there are a number of things that happen. Some people come in and just need 3 or 4 days and they know where they're going to be going next. Some people come and stay and it doesn't feel right for them. It's a community setting and they need to be more isolated. And then some people don't show up for other reasons that we don't always know about. So they don't come back and get their bed, or it isn't that they don't tell us necessarily they're not coming. They just, when they don't show up by 6, we will give their bed away.
Okay. And do you have an average stay tracker? Or know what the average stay is, I guess?
So our HMIS system doesn't have that right now. And And so we're working on to see how we can track that without having to just, like pull out numbers, add it up and divide it by however many. So HMIS doesn't have that, but I have requested that information.
Okay. And then, looks like continues to be a pretty high number of women compared to what it used to be, I guess. And, is there a age range, is the rise in more women, older women, like over 60? Is it middle age? Is it younger? Would be a question, I guess, is where we might be seeing the most increase in that specific group.
So in this specific report of the 40 women that stayed, 14 of them were over 51 and 4 were over 62, so 28, more than half, were over the age of 51. And 17 of those were in the 30 to 50 range, 4 were in the young adult range.
And you know how many teenagers are staying, like 18, 19 are staying?
So HMIS lumps them into 18 to 30, so that's kind of, I don't have a way to pull that out with this report. But in that young range, of the 103 people that stayed with us in August, 17 of them are in the 18 to 30 range. So it's definitely not the majority for sure.
Okay, and then I was wondering about, high school kids, if there were any that were staying there.
We have had that, since the Friends House has been open, we have had Norman Public Schools pick up kids on a handful of occasions and take them to high school. It's often when either they're not appropriate for Bridges or Bridges was full and they couldn't get into Bridges. But yes, we definitely have had high school kids come through and the bus picks them up and takes them to high school at the shelter.
And we're still seeing a 30% or so number of people that stay at the shelter who have income of some kind, either disability benefits, Social Security, or they are working.
Yeah, I didn't print that one off, but I did happen to look at it whenever I was preparing these reports, and those numbers stay quite the same, yeah.
Okay. I think that's the questions I had this time.
To your point about income, we had an event today and I happened to meet a researcher from the University of Oklahoma who studies precariousness. That's her point of research. And she said that in the state of Oklahoma that there's actual research that shows people's precariousness with housing and just stability has been rising, which means they're living more precarious.
Mm-hmm.
And that really does explain why we're seeing so many evictions being filed and things like that.
Yes, the Oklahoma is still one of the cheapest places to live, but I think we've all been seeing the cost of living in Oklahoma, and specifically the Oklahoma City metro area, has been increasing quite significantly over the last 4 years.
Yeah, and I learned recently we have one of the loosest regulations on evictions in the country. It's quite easy to file an eviction.
So low income state, pretty much no renter protections at all. And the rising cost of living in this state, at least for the people here. I understand people coming from a place like California or Florida or somewhere else where the income's higher, they come here and everything looks like it's not, it's pennies. But for a lot of folks here that are low income, this, is having an impact. So I think we see it in the data here. So appreciate that update.
Mm-hmm.
Well, according to what I was reading yesterday, Norman is 11% higher than Oklahoma average on costs, and that's including housing and groceries and everything else. 7% lower than the national average, which includes California and New York and those places, obviously. So it fits in.
Yeah.
Did you have, yes, sir?
I just also noticed it the other day, and I just want to tell you thank you for adding in the kind of length of stay that I'd asked about last month. I thought it was really interesting to see that the number of people that are there, 0 to 14 days. that don't make it to, the 15th day. So I think that was really useful. In the income is in here, just a few pages above.
Yeah,
that.
I just didn't print that one out.
Oh,
I don't
gotcha,
have it in
gotcha.
front of me, so, but yeah, there is a report in there that does identify income, yeah.
But that's really all I had was really, thank you for adding that. That was
You're welcome.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned the housing authority, so Norman Housing Authority is not issuing any vouchers currently, and is that because they don't have anywhere? There's nowhere for people to.
Their vouchers are not being issued for a lack of funding. It's not necessarily that they don't have placements. It's just that they receive a certain amount of money per year to issue vouchers, and when they've issued those vouchers, they can't issue more. And what they've told us over the last year is that the housing authority is paying more percentage of people's rent than they have before. That's because people are living on much lower incomes than they have before compared to cost of living. So their burden, the burden that comes from the government and tax dollars, is a lot higher right now than it has been before. So it does limit their abilities. Now, they do have some vouchers that are specifically for people with disabilities we're trying to access for some people in shelter. But again, that comes with, first we have to get their documents like ID, birth certificate, social security card, which is one of the primary case management tasks that we do at a friend's house. We order a bunch of those.
And the housing authority gets funding for vouchers from the state, from the federal government?
Not from the
HUD?
state, it's from HUD. It's all federal dollars.
So HUD's not funding them to a higher degree is
Yeah.
what's.
It's a block model, like it's a percentage of allocation, so whatever that allocation is calculated through some formula.
Magic government math. Any other questions for April?
Can I ask
Thank you.
questions?
Oh, yeah.
Just two. On the incident reports and fire watch log related to August 25th, which is page 57 and page 32 of the submitted reports, the times reported conflict. The incident report indicates the incident happened at 6:14 a.m. and the fire watch log indicates it happened at 6:47 a.m. What would you attribute the difference in times reported to?
I don't know, I'll have to research that. Nobody has asked me that yet, so I'll have to look it up.
And then the second question, the September 2024 job posting related to the PT intake position says the pay is $20 an hour. Your proposed budget that you submitted in July 2024 says the pay will be $26.63 per hour. What would you attribute these $6.63 difference to?
Part of that is payroll taxes. It includes payroll taxes and certain benefits we're required to pay for individuals. That goes above their hourly wage.
Okay, yep, I figured, just wanted to confirm. Thank you.
Well, since we have nothing more to discuss, yes, sir.
From the Salvation Army, did they
Oh,
get something
yeah.
to share with us or anything?
You
Or
got anything, Corey? Sorry, I'm sitting here looking at you.
No, we were just gonna see if you guys needed anything from us. We have THQ territorial headquarters coming down next week to get started on our build for our shelter. We're actually putting in a kitchen, a commercial kitchen and a commercial dining room, and which will be emergency expansion if needed, like she was talking about, bringing people in from the cold. And then once that's done, well, we're gonna, about halfway through that, we're gonna transition into using that kitchen, and that will give us the space to blow out our kitchen and automatically add roughly 10 beds. And then once we're completely done with that phase of those both buildings, we'll be adding women and children, and it could put us possibly around 100 folks. So, yeah, it's a pretty big deal because it's already secured and promised funding, so.
Yes, sir.
How long has Salvation Army been in that location, do you know?
At that location, since I would say the shelter that we built was built, I think in 68 or 69.
1968?
Yeah, but we've been in Cleveland County since 1892 here in Norman, so.
Oh, I didn't realize it'd been that long.
That's the only place I ever remember it.
So that would probably be the first shelter in Norman for
Probably, yeah. And I remember before reading the news articles, before it was in a little neighborhood, they had a few houses that the Salvation Army owned, and that's what they used for shelters, prior to building that shelter.
Okay. Well, yeah, appreciate that information. And you guys being here.
It's not on the website. I had to look that up too, because we were trying to decide that. That's part of a discussion. You know, that we, in my opinion, Salvation Army's always been here, because always is my lifetime. And so,
Definitely on my list.
it's just good to know. All right. Well, I guess we are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
When are you gonna be done? 2 years?
How's Bacon World today?
They're hoping by the end of June.
Next year.
Yeah, if they break ground in October, they'll be done with the dining hall and the renovation of the shelter by June. That's will start phase 2.